Ever notice how money conversations in a relationship can be, like, kind of tricky sometimes?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, today we are diving deep, deep, deep into this whole idea of modern husbands and what financial literacy really means for couples.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and to guide us on this little deep dive, we have, well, kind of financial guru, you could say, Brian Page.
Hmm.
You familiar with him?
I am. Yeah, he's big on financial education.
Huge, right. And he's got a real knack for making these complex topics, click.
Totally. He's got a way of explaining things that just makes sense.
Exactly. And he's got this really interesting background, right, that kind of informs his whole approach.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Okay, so get this.
Mm-hmm.
He tells this story about his dad, who was, get this, a computer engineer.
Okay.
But he drove this, like, beat-up demolition derby car.
Ah.
Yeah, I know, right? Total clunker. But here's the kicker.
Okay.
The dad actually owned, like, rental properties. He was actually financially secure. Yeah, wild, right? Really makes you think about how we, how we get those early impressions of money.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like those underlying values and habits.
Exactly. It's like, it wasn't about, actually being broke. It was more about his dad's, like, deep-seated frugality
Right. Right.
and wanting to make sure, like, Brian could go to college without debt.
Wow. That's powerful.
Yeah, super impactful, right?
Totally.
That's what they call it, like money scripts, right?
Yeah, money scripts.
Yeah.
It's like those unconscious beliefs about money we get from our upbringing.
Totally. It's not about judging those money scripts.
Right, not at all.
It's about understanding where your partner's coming from.
Exactly, because when those unspoken beliefs clash, that's where the trouble often starts, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I bet those conflicts are even tougher now. Think about it, right? Online shopping, instant gratification, everywhere you look.
Oh, for sure. It's so easy to overspend these days.
Way too easy.
It's a whole different ballgame compared to, like, even just a few decades ago.
Right. Back then, spending money, it was like an ordeal. You had cash, checks, trips to the bank.
Yeah, you're right. There was actual friction.
Totally. It naturally limited your spending.
But now, one click and boom, instant gratification.
Oh, that dopamine rush is real, man. I'm definitely guilty of that.
Right. But those impulse buys can add up, especially if one partner is more prone to it.
For sure.
Yeah.
So what's the solution? Like, ditching our smartphones and, like, resorting to bartering chickens?
Well, that's one way to do it, I guess.
Yeah,
Right.
that's super practical, though.
Not really, but don't worry. Brian suggests a more, shall we say, realistic approach.
Okay, I'm listening.
He calls them baby steps to kind of open up those money conversations.
Baby steps. Okay, I like the sound of that.
Yeah, it feels a lot less intimidating than like a full-blown financial intervention,
Right. No one wants that. So how do we take these baby steps? What does Brian suggest?
He's got this really cool tool called the lottery ticket exercise.
Okay, hold on. Lottery tickets and finances.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Sounds kind of out there.
How does that work?
Basically, you grab a lottery ticket and plan, get this, a money date with your partner.
A money date.
Yeah.
I kind of love that. It's
Yeah.
like a fun way to approach what could be like a sensitive topic, right?
Exactly. And it's about creating dedicated time, no distractions, to just connect.
So it's like, if we won the lottery,
Yeah, what would you do? Where would you go?
oh, like a fun what-if scenario. I like that.
Exactly. It helps couples tap into their shared values and picture like an ideal future together.
It's like you're reverse engineering your financial goals in a way.
That's a great way to put it.
You start with those like fun dreams, right?
Yeah.
And then you kind of work backward to
Yeah.
figure out how to make them a reality.
Exactly. Lottery win or not.
Brilliant. Okay, this is great. But what about those situations where there are like bigger financial imbalances in a relationship?
Oh, right. Like when one person makes a lot more money.
Yeah, exactly. What happens then?
Things can definitely get more complex in those situations. And it's important to remember that financial abuse is, a real issue.
Absolutely.
And if that's something you're experiencing, please know you're not alone.
Couldn't agree more.
Reach out for help. There are resources available. No one should have to go through that.
Absolutely. But for couples where, financial abuse isn't a factor, but that income disparity is like causing tension,
Right.
what can they do?
There are definitely things couples can do. Brian talks about yours, mine, and ours accounts.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of those.
Yeah, it's where you have a joint account for like share expenses, right?
Right.
And then separate accounts for personal spending.
Right, so you're still contributing to shared goals,
Mhm.
but also have the freedom to, buy that vintage record player or those designer shoes
Ah.
without judgment.
Within reason, of course. But here's a surprising thing Brian found in his research.
Okay, what's that?
Couples who pool their money are actually happier.
Really? I always thought keeping finances separate was like the key to marital bliss.
Yeah, it seems counterintuitive, but studies show that merging finances can actually boost relationship satisfaction.
Interesting.
It creates that sense of partnership, shared ownership.
That makes sense. Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Okay.
But for finances.
Exactly.
So we've got money scripts, lottery-fueled dreams, joint accounts. What else does this modern husband philosophy offer?
Well, it wouldn't be a deep dive into finances without talking about investing, right?
True, true. And to be honest, the world of investing can be, well,
A bit much.
yeah, a little overwhelming.
It definitely can be. There's so much jargon, so many options. It's easy to get lost.
Exactly. So any advice for those of us who aren't, financial experts?
Brian's got some surprisingly simple advice. And, dare I say, liberating.
Oh, liberating. Tell me more. I love keeping things simple, especially when it comes to money. Liberating. Okay. I'm intrigued. Tell me more. I love keeping things simple, especially when it comes to money.
Okay, so, get this. He actually calls out trying to beat the market, like picking individual stocks. That's some of the worst financial advice out there.
Really?
Yeah.
I've totally heard that before, though.
Right?
It's like everyone wants to be like the next Warren Buffett,
Exactly.
picking stocks like it's nobody's business.
Yeah. And while, there's nothing wrong with learning about individual companies, Brian says for most people, it's just a recipe for stress. And honestly, you often end up underperforming.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, think about all the research and analysis. That would be exhausting.
Oh, totally.
Not to mention, riding the emotional roller coaster of the stock market.
Exactly. And that's where Brian's alternative comes in.
Okay.
He's a huge advocate for index funds, especially for their potential for long-term consistent growth.
Index funds. Okay, I've heard that term, but to be honest, I'm not entirely clear on how they actually work.
They're actually pretty straightforward.
Oh.
Imagine this. Instead of putting all your eggs in one basket by investing in individual companies, you're investing in the whole basket. An index fund essentially holds a diverse collection of stocks, and usually it tracks a specific market index like the S&P 500.
So you're spreading your risk across hundreds of companies.
Exactly.
That sounds way less risky. Especially for someone like me who doesn't have time to become a stock market whiz.
Exactly. Plus, index funds are known for having really low fees, which can make a huge difference in your returns over time.
Less risk, less work, lower fees.
Okay, I'm starting to see why Brian's such a fan.
Right.
But are they effective? Do they actually perform better than those actively managed mutual funds?
That's the thing. Brian highlights some pretty compelling data on this. Apparently, over a 10-year period, index funds outperform actively managed mutual funds 99.9% of the time.
99.9%. Wow, okay. That's impressive. It definitely sounds like he knows what he's talking about with this whole keep it simple approach to investing. Right. And he has this great quote that sums it up perfectly. He says, "You don't win time in the market, you win with time in the market."
Time in the market. I love that.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder that, investing is a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly. It's about those consistent contributions over time, letting the power of compound interest do its thing.
This has been so insightful. So as we're wrapping up this deep dive into modern husbands and financial literacy, what are some key things you want our listener to take away from this conversation?
I think it really boils down to open communication and shared financial goals. Those are crucial for a healthy and happy relationship. It's about understanding your partner's money scripts, being willing to have those, sometimes tough conversations, and ultimately finding a system that works for both of you.
And remember, it's never too late to make those positive changes.
Right. Exactly. Whether it's as simple as initiating that first money date, looking into index funds, or even talking to a financial therapist, there are always steps you can take to improve your financial well-being as a couple.
Love it. So as you go about your day, think about this.
Right.
What's one small step you can take today to start a more positive conversation about money with your partner? Maybe it's sharing this deep dive, or finally planning that money date.
Yeah.
Remember, building a solid financial foundation begins with open communication and a shared vision for the future. Until next time, happy diving.
Okay, this is great. But for someone who's totally new to index funds, where do they even begin?
It's actually way easier than you might think.
Okay, good.
Like, there are tons of resources out there to help
Okay.
you choose the right index funds, based on your risk tolerance and investment goals.
Right, right.
And you can even find index funds through, like, most online brokerage accounts these days. Super easy.
Oh, so it's not like you need a financial advisor to get started with this approach. Not necessarily, no. And that actually kind of brings us to another one of Brian's points, which I think is really interesting.
Okay.
He's really big on this idea of financial literacy being about empowerment,
I like that.
not dependence.
Right.
Not being dependent on experts, right?
Yes, yes. Empowerment's key when it comes to something as important as, your own money.
Exactly. And it kind of ties back to those money scripts, right?
Right, yeah.
When you take control of your financial knowledge, you're basically challenging those old beliefs and creating a healthier, more fulfilling relationship with money, both individually and as a couple.
So it's like becoming financially literate is
Yeah.
about more than just like dollars and cents. It's about investing in yourself and your relationship.
Yeah, 100%. It's about having that confidence to make informed decisions together.
Right.
Without letting those unspoken money scripts, dictate your future.
Man, this whole conversation, honestly, it's been a real eye-opener.
I know, right? It's amazing how these, seemingly simple concepts can be so impactful on our relationships and our lives.
Yeah. So on that note, any final thoughts for our listener before we wrap up our deep dive today?
I think just remember, open communication, a willingness to learn, and honestly, don't forget to have some fun along the way. Right?
Yeah.
Those are key to navigating finances as a couple.
Love that.
Don't be afraid to have those money dates, explore those shared dreams.
Yes.
And, build a financial future that truly aligns with your values, as a team.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Oh.
So there you have it, folks. A deep dive into the world of modern husbands and the power of financial literacy in relationships. Until next time, happy diving.